Okay, and now for the grand reveal. Hey guys, this is Steve with TronicsFix. Welcome to video number 3 in my repair challenge series with Vince from the YouTube channel MyMateVINCE. I hope you guys have been enjoying the challenge. Thank you so much for all the positive comments and questions in the comment section of the last video. Today I have for you my item number 3. But first, be sure to subscribe if you like this kind of content, as I plan on doing a lot more of these repair challenge type videos. And also I recommend subscribing to MyMateVINCE as well. I'll leave a link for his video in this repair challenge series so you can see his item number 2, and you can see what we bought and if you think we'll be able to fix them and how much you think we might be able to make off of them. But for now, that's enough talking. Let's get to item number 3. Here's a look at the box. You can see if you can guess what's in it while I'm doing the unboxing, and see if you're right when I'm done. Okay, and now for the grand reveal. This is my next item. It, as you can see, is an Xbox One S. This Xbox One S I bought for $80 off of eBay. It is broken. The seller said that it does turn on and you can get it to show a picture, but it does have HDMI issues, and also the bind button does not seem to be working. So let's plug it in and see if it works how the seller says it does first. So first of all, let's see if it powers up. Good news so far. Okay, it does power up. Eject buttons works. You can see that it is coming up on the screen. I do see some crazy marks right here, some glitches going on, and there's some down there as well. And okay, so when I wiggle the HDMI port, you can see that the picture goes out. Okay, and it has been reset to factory settings. This is basically the initial screen when you first start one up. So I can definitely see that we do have HDMI issues. Anytime I wiggle the cable, the HDMI signal will go out and then come back on. On this screen, I don't see any of the pixelation or weird glitches on the screen, so that probably means it's probably just an issue with the HDMI port. I hope, we'll see. If not, I can replace the HDMI chip on the motherboard if needed, but I think probably, I'm guessing that it's just the port on this Xbox One S. So next, let's get it apart and make sure that's the only problem. So it looks like the fan could definitely use some cleaning, so we'll get that cleaned up. It looks like maybe some drops spilled on there. I'll look and see for sure once we get this stuff off and look at the motherboard, make sure that's not damaged by liquid. It looks like it's probably just on the fan, so I think we're okay. But we're going to get everything else taken out of here, get the motherboard out, and have a look at that HDMI port. After having a bit of a look at this motherboard, I do see some liquid damage here, and also a little bit of liquid damage here. From what I can tell, it looks like it's just surface, and I can scrub that off with some alcohol and a toothbrush, but I will inspect it when I'm done just to make sure that that's gonna be okay. I will also check these pins under a microscope just to make sure they look good, but this could be the only problem with our HDMI port right here. We also have a little more liquid damage along these pins. These are the pins for the power supply connection to the motherboard. They obviously are not causing any problems. It powers on just fine, but we will make sure those are nice and clean as well. So here we have quite a bit of dust built up in here. So it's good we took this off just so we can get it nice and clean. Also, the heat sink is fairly dirty for an Xbox One S. It's not bad, it's not plugged or anything, probably isn't causing any overheating issues, but this is what can turn into overheating issues. Once the hair and dust start building up on these fins, then it just builds up more and more and more and eventually causes overheating. So we'll also get that cleaned off. In a few other places I noticed there's some corrosion here as well as right here. None of this looks incredibly bad. I see it as all being cleanable and correctable. So we're gonna clean that off and then we'll take another look and make sure that is nice and clean and how it should look. All right, so first I'm just gonna brush over this fairly lightly just to get off any loose stuff. That's one easy way to know how serious your liquid damage is when it brushes off like this, how does it look? You can see this, most of it just brushes right off. So just like there's just a really light coating of corrosion over some of those components. Now I'm using 99% isopropyl alcohol. You don't have to use 99%, but I use 99% because it gets everything a little bit cleaner, it evaporates faster, and it's just what I like to use for it. You can just let it evaporate, or I like to use some canned air sometimes. Canned air just dries that stuff up real quick. So just with that little tiny bit of cleaning, this area actually looks pretty good. I will take it and look under my microscope in a bit just to double check, but it looks like everything's just fine. Let's work on that HDMI area. Okay, and here we go. Let's see how much of this we can get off of here. So this HDMI port itself even seems to have some stuff caught down in there maybe. So I'm just gonna give it a good cleaning with my pick and then also with my toothbrush. I don't actually recommend you do this. This is actually probably not the best way to fix this because you can get this metal on these pins and really mess them up, but I've done a lot of cleaning of these, so I kind of have a feel for it, but you just got to be super careful with it. Might need to do a little bit more cleaning on this, but I feel like that's looking pretty good. Since we have it apart and this seal between the APU chip and the heatsink has been broken, we are going to replace this thermal paste. Anytime you remove a motherboard, unless you've just recently done it and the thermal paste is nice and fresh, I always replace thermal paste. And this looks really nice and clean now, so that's ready for new thermal paste. So we'll do that in a little bit once we get the heatsink cleaned. Now we're going to clean off anything else on the board that needs it, and then we'll put this thing back in and we'll test the HDMI system and see if that fixed it. Almost forgot, we do have this one other area to clean down by the power supply. And there we go. That is looking nice and clean. All the corrosion is cleaned off and it's ready to go. Normally I don't use the same brush for cleaning this kind of dirt as I do for cleaning the corrosion off motherboards, but I'm doing it right now because that's all I have right at the moment. We're going to make sure all of this is cleaned out. Okay, that's all we're gonna do on the fan for now. It's not perfect, we'll do a little bit more on it later, but I wanna get this fan installed and then start it up and see if that HDMI problem is gone. You don't need a ton of thermal paste here. About that much or so. This really isn't that important, the amount. You don't wanna get too little. If you get too much and it squishes out or something, that's fine, it's not a big deal. No reason to put too much and waste it, but just make sure not to put too little. We're gonna mount our fan. There we go. Yeah, obviously you can see when this is drying, it leaves more of the white residue, so we gotta clean that all off. Okay, X-clamp is installed. Now we can get it back into the chassis and get a few screws in. So I'm going to start this up real quick. I'll look on this TV, and then once I get it back together, I'll show you guys, assuming that this does work. There we go with the fan. And it looks good. I don't see any cutting out. So now we just need to get this fan cleaned up a little bit more. We do have to take care of this front board, and then it should be ready to go all back together. So the fan is definitely not perfect, but I got any of the big kind of chunks off of there. It feels pretty clean, even though there are some white spots on there still. So I feel like we're actually in pretty good shape with the fan. It spins nicely, and I think we got most of it clean, even though you do see some white on there. It's most everything is cleaned off. So I think it's much better than before, and more importantly, I think it will run as it should now. Now let's decide what we need to do with this. So if you didn't see it before, this is the button we're having problems with. It should look like this button. This is a little white thing that presses down and you should hear it click. As you can see, this one is missing the white piece and the metal covering. Now I can replace this entire button, but normally what I do is I save a bunch of these up and replace buttons all at once. So what I'm going to do for this one, for the sake of time, is just use another board here in place of this board, so then I don't have to take the time right now to replace this button. And here is a board that shows the button how it should look. So there's this button, and this button right here. So those are the three buttons on this board, and this is how they should look. Now that we've got this board, let's get it installed and then start it up and make sure it works correctly. And now that those are both installed, let's get that top cover cleaned up as well. Okay, it's definitely not perfect. We've done as much as we're gonna do now without spending a lot of time on it. That's as good as it's gonna look. So let's get it all back together and then we can test every function and make sure everything works correctly. We've cleaned the motherboard, we've replaced the power board on the front, we've cleaned the case. Let's check it, let's see if it turns on, let's see if everything functions as it should. Okay, it obviously comes up on the screen. Now let's try the wiggle test. You remember before, when I wiggled this, the screen would kind of go glitchy. Okay, we're doing some serious wiggling of the HDMI cable. No glitches at all. It sounds better, it looks better. Let's check the sync button. That definitely presses, and that feels good. Let's check the eject button. The eject button makes noise. And let's do the wiggle test one more time. And that looks great. So it looks like we have successfully fixed our third item. This Xbox One S I paid $80 for. I'm not quite sure how much it's gonna go for because it is kind of dirty and it's got some dings in the plastic, so I'll make sure and get great pictures of those so people can see exactly what it is. So it may not go for as much as some of the other Xbox One S's out there, but I think we'll still be able to make some money on it. How much? I don't know. Let me know in the comments how much you think it'll go for. Also, let me know what else you think I should buy. And let me know if you have any other questions or comments. I'm gonna link up my mate Vince's next video in the description below so you can check that out and see how he does on his third item. Be sure to subscribe if you like this type of video because I've got lots more like this coming up. Thanks again for watching and I hope you guys have a great day.